Hello everyone, welcome. Richard Carlton here. Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. I'm the creator of fmtraining.tv, where we create great on-demand FileMaker video training as well as daily live streams. It's 1 o'clock time for our daily live stream, where we're going to do lots of cool things helping you become better at the FileMaker platform. That's the goal, for you to be awesome. I'm not here to sell FileMaker. It's not what we do. Everyone who's here pretty much already kind of knows FileMaker is awesome. They're just trying to figure out how they can be awesome themselves, right, with the platform. So Jacob Taylor, are you ready to rock and roll and show us your stuff?
I'm ready to rock and roll, yes.
Show your screen, please. Display your goodness for me. All right, see if I can bring this up. There it is. Bring it down
Let me
there.
get you out of the way.
Yeah, I need to be out of the way. I'll move you down there. All right, so we are here. I'm going to go full screen on you. The resolution looks really nice. So where did we leave off yesterday? Okay, so I have to do this. Ready? Last time on Battlestar Galactica, Jacob, what'd you do?
The last thing that we finished off with was I demonstrated sort of quickly at the end how to set up an hourly schedule, since it's kind of not intuitive. I think most of the people watching can probably figure out the daily and weekly ones. We can jump through those really fast if that's useful to have recorded, basically. But I wanted to jump through configuration really fast, and then we're going to jump into SSL, I think. Yep. So yeah, just as a very small recap from last time, when you're thinking about backup strategy, you want to think about having, I mean, honestly, like some of our customers, when I'm telling them this stuff, they think I'm a little paranoid, because we'll when we did on-site servers anymore, but we still do some, we'll put backups on every single hard drive that's plugged into the computer. And the reason for that is because Richard likes to tell me from back in the day, we have had triple hard drive failures before.
Actually, let me help with that. Let me help. So I've had,
Yep.
over the last 30 years, I've had 4 scenarios. We had 4 drives hooked up to the computer. I've had 3 or 4 times where I had triple drives fail. Obviously, when you have that many drives fail, you're looking at power supply issues, right? Something like that. I've had 1 quadruple drive failure where everything was gone. And it wasn't a flood. Like a lot of you in hurricane alleys and tornado alleys and typhoons, if you're in the Pacific, 10 feet of water goes to the office. Doesn't matter how many drives you have hooked up, they're all going to be gone. So that's where the offsite backups come from. So super important.
Yep. Yeah, and really that's the final conversation. I just wanted to say, so for Amazon servers specifically, we do a little bit less. We still end up with full suites of hourly, daily, and weekly backups, but taking advantage of some of the parts that make this the cloud, we don't have to put them on literally every hard drive, just most of them. And then, yeah, as Richard mentioned, the very last part of this conversation is some sort of offsite backups. I'm not going to fully demonstrate that today, but there's a couple things I want to talk about. One is, if you're on something like Amazon, and Google has this, and I know Microsoft has it, we have not set this stuff up personally, except for on Amazon. But you can use things like S3. I know both Microsoft and Google's clouds have object stores. And you can take, a copy of your database, zip it up once an hour, once a day, whatever works for your business, and throw it into a bucket somewhere.
Can you explain what S3 is? We have people here probably don't know what that is.
Okay. S3, I liken it to the big hard drive in the cloud. It looks like a hard drive to the computer. You tend to talk to it with scripts or over an API or something like that. It won't be mounted like a hard drive on your computer, although I think there's a couple pieces of software that'll let you pretend that. It'll make a little fake, F drive on your computer or whatever, and it's actually your Amazon bucket.
For those of you who've been around, I like to call it like a FTP server. It's like, and it's not FTP, but that idea where it's not really a drive, but you have this upload and download to it, and you can stick a lot of stuff in there. The thing is, what it is it's Amazon's big storage system, and it's a great place to back up. Also, keep in mind, when you write to S3, it replicates it. So there's these things, and I'm just going to just cover this briefly because it's relevant here. So I'm back. I'm showing your screen, but I'm showing my face. So Amazon has these what we call regions. A region is like a town area or something like that. There's a California region, an Oregon region, east west, two on the west coast. There's a Ohio region, central United States. There's a New Jersey region, I think, and then down southern towards Florida. There's a region down that way. There's also a region, I think, in Ireland, in Germany. And so, what is a region? Well, when you set up a server, you put it on a region, okay? And within that region, that area, it's not one data center. So when I say region, it's not a data center. So when you go to a region, Amazon sets up a region. Say they're going to set up a region in Hawaii. They don't have them, but said they would do that. They would actually go and buy 5 different buildings or 4 different buildings, whatever it is, around that geographical area, may be separated by 5 or 10 miles or whatever it is. Each one of those buildings is a data center. They call that an availability zone. And when you write to S3, you write to that backup, it replicates the data automatically to each of those data centers in that availability zone. So when you write to that, say you save it in building 1, you don't really know that you're saving in building 1, you just know you're saving it. Amazon automatically replicates the other building. So if an asteroid lands on top of the building and kills it, your backups are still in the other buildings around the area, right? Does that make sense? So those are the regions and availability zones. S3 is great because you not only you write it, but you really don't have to worry about Amazon losing it because it gets saved into like different buildings, literally, different data centers. It's great, and so that's why that's important. So S3 is this magical bucket file server, big file server in the sky. And it's where we write a lot of backups too. So we really like that quite a bit. So that's your backstory on that, Jacob. That's plain for English for the people who are not super technical. So I hate to interrupt you. That's great. You're doing great. People, that way they understand.
Yeah, and just to put onto that, so we don't do this for most of our customers, but if you, for example, had, I'll just say, highly valuable data, I'm thinking many, many millions of dollars, or edging towards hundreds of millions or $1 billion. I don't know what data would be valued at that level, but just as an example, if you were thinking about it, thinking about something like that, if your business is that valuable, you can also replicate the files between different regions entirely. So if you're thinking about, asteroids flying at Earth or something like that, and it's aiming right for Virginia where you've got all your stuff stored and your server running, and yep, it's going to flatten Virginia. That's happening. But if you keep a copy over in Singapore, and you've got an employee or an office over there, you might have a snowball's chance of getting that data back, even with the disruption that would cause. So you can think about stuff like that. Though that type of stuff is not automatic. You have to program it, but those things are available to you basically. So, but sort of as part of the broader discussion, so we do that on Amazon. We will also do, because these are Windows machines, we can put Dropbox on there if you have one of those. We can do OneDrive. There's a couple customers that use Windows Drive, Google Drive. And those all work great. There's one main thing to know about that, about all of those options, the sort of desktop sync software like that. There's one main thing to know about it, which is you want to avoid, because one of the things that makes sense here is, you come in here. Let me do this by way of example. So you'd come in here and you make your little backup schedule, and you're going to be like and you go, users. Let's see. I think I'm the administrator, and so then you're like, all right, I want to put it in my Dropbox folder. You're gonna put backups here. Oh, that actually took it. Nice. Oh, no, it didn't. Okay. So you're going to put backups directly into Dropbox or something like that. You want to avoid that actually. So Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive, like all of those, they basically look at like when the file was last touched, and at various stages, something has changed with the file details, and so they'll go, oh, hey, the file changed, and try and sync it. Well, if that's in the middle of a backup, then the backup's not done yet. So what you have is a ruined file that gets synced. And due to whatever various issues, implementation, software problems, I don't even know, they will sync those bad copies of the database and not like later check and go, oh, hey, the hourly ran like it completed. Let me punt that stuff up for you. It doesn't always do that. And so you'll end up in this scenario where you think you have working backups, say going into Dropbox or going into OneDrive, and they won't work. You might have a disaster of some sort. You go to restore out of that, and it doesn't work. The other thing is that for a lot of those, it's kind of painful to pull the files out. Because if you have, for example, external container data, those are going to get written into the backups as well. And if you have lots of container data, lots of documents, lots of that's usually, well, documents is what most people store in them, frankly, but there's lots of other that you can put whatever into a container field. Those are all outside the file if you've set them that way. That can be very painful as well, because there might be hundreds of thousands. I've seen customers with millions of files in their containers. FileMaker does that just fine, but Dropbox, and they have to scan all those files every time, and it takes forever. So it's not, we don't advise it basically. The solution to that though is you have a secondary process outside of anything I've shown here with Dropbox or the FileMaker Server backup schedule or whatever. You have something else that comes in and says, oh, hey, cool, the backup schedule finished, it runs at 1 p.m., it's 1:30, cool, zip up that, you have like an hourly backup stored somewhere, zip that up and punt that into Dropbox, because then you're just like shove a zip in. Dropbox knows exactly what to do with that. And it'll sync it up and you'll be able to restore it just fine. Might need some zip software on your computer if you don't have it. Most of them come with that these days though. So
good. So no questions so far. So keep rolling away.
Yep. So we'll do, I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to throw a daily and a weekly in here just to show doing it. I think you guys know what this stuff looks like, but just for completeness sake, so we have daily, do D, and then I'm setting these to the standard. So I don't know if you guys caught it before. When I set this up the very first time, I did the hourly one. We keep 24 hourlies. And that's, we'll say, kind of excessive, but it also means that you can go back at any time over the last 24 hours and pull a copy of your database. For example, if someone deleted a very important record, for example, the preferences record, actually, which is some of our customers occasionally will delete those on accident. And then starting point is like mad, and you can go back and just fetch that record, you re-import it and put the file back up again, and it's very easy.
Okay, so we do have a comment here. Cloud Bedrock says an AWS EBS snapshot will do a block level backup to S3 as well and can be scheduled, but a snapshot, right, of a running live file, right, that's kind of a no-no, right? Yes.
Correct. Yes. So that's one of the things that you want to pay attention to when you're doing snapshots. Those are perfectly okay if you want to, snap a copy of Windows every so often. If you want to snap a copy of the backups drive, you want to be careful with that. But it can be done safely if you're very careful. But one of the mistakes our customers make is they will grab a snapshot of the drive with the live databases on it and try and restore to that. And don't do that, because you will get. Yeah, correct. Thank you.
Trash.
Trash database.
Trash, big time.
Yep. So I'm going to run this. We'll do the daily. I'm just showing this for completeness sake. There's a nice daily schedule. Like I said, so our standard for this stuff is you want 24 hourlies, 14 dailies, which is 2 weeks, and then the last one is weeklies, and we'll do 13 of those, which is, ballpark of a financial quarter. For most businesses. So we tweak those for some businesses where they only need business hours backups, for example, or they only need a few hourlies or something like that. There's also other businesses where we keep more weeklies because their data doesn't change that much, and so you can reduce the dailies and the hourlies down to a more manageable level, in case you need to go review historic data or something like that, in case something weird happens, or you just need to go check. Let's see here, we're going to do weekly, and I have it doesn't matter at all. I have a preference for doing things on Saturdays. Totally doesn't, it's completely irrelevant what day you do it on, doesn't matter. You do want to think about the cadence of the business though. For example, the reason I like doing it on Saturdays is because many of our customers finish up their week. Most of them don't actually work on weekends, basically. And so if you snapshot, for example, or snapshot, if you back up, 3 a.m. Saturday morning, something like that, you'll catch all the changes for each week. And then you're not going to have a lot of changes until Monday. So. And to answer David Angel's question from Discord, which is, can you request AWS to send you a backup in a USB, like a flash drive or a hard drive? I don't believe so, though I know they have a service where they will send you drives so that you can bring data onto Amazon. For example, if you have many terabytes of data at your office, or you have like an internal, some big companies have an internal data center, and they want to put data up onto Amazon really fast. They will ship you a hard drive all the way up to basically a shipping container full of servers that are all hard drives, basically, and then you can load many terabytes of data that way. I believe they call that Snowball. Yeah, Snowball. Thank you. So we're going to hit save. So this is a standard setup for backups. There's one thing I'm going to change, and someone mentioned it last time. You should call out who it was because I don't remember. We usually, but not always, disable this backup schedule that comes in. It's only disabled. It's this thing on the left side. This is its own schedule separate from these 3 that I've created. This will keep 1 week worth of backups on wherever FileMaker is installed. So if you put FileMaker on the C drive, that's where it's going to keep it. The reason that we disable this, one, is because of course we have our daily backups over here, and those are going to run just fine, and we keep 14 of them, not 7. But the main issue is that for a lot of our customers, they keep their databases somewhere other than the C drive, and so you don't actually want extra databases, more than maybe like 1 on the C drive, because you'll fill it, and it's a Windows and FileMaker Server specifically, just non-technically, they get really angry at you if you fill the hard drive. 18 and FileMaker Server 18 and newer is a bit more resilient to that than previous versions, but that's because basically they changed something in it where it will keep track of its own hard drive's free space, and it used to try and do like an emergency shutdown on the databases if the disk fills. I think the bar for that used to be about 1 megabyte, which is not enough time, basically. And with the launch of 18, right, we're on 19 now. With the launch of 18, they increased that to 1 gigabyte. So you also may want to know that if you fill your drive up totally and it gets to 1 gig, your server will shut itself down to try and save your databases. That's a great idea because otherwise they can get corrupted if Windows dies or gets pissed off and starts thrashing and doing crazy wild stuff because it's full. Because the boot drive is full.
Yeah,
Windows does not tolerate that.
Yeah, basically we're talking about the drive filling up, and basically every time I've seen it happen, the machine basically crashes. And so you have someone say, well, what is a corrupted file, or what is a file where FileMaker does not go through the? I mean, we asked. There's a great definition question. It was yesterday. Where FileMaker Server or Pro does not shut down and close down and save the file properly, and basically is a process where it does cleanup, it moves the data from temporary directories back into the live file, etc., and then it gracefully shuts it down. If that doesn't happen, you have to use a backup. So that's kind of like, once again, we keep chanting the same crap over and over. If it crashes, throw it away. Hooray for Jacob today. Yay. Right? We have a little chance. If it crashes, throw it away. If it crashes, throw it away. And you guys think I'm kidding. I'm telling you, for me to find a customer that, they're like, hey, we like Richard. We like this great, but we use our crash files. I only have to do is flip in my email box and look for about 30 seconds. I can find someone who does it. It's a normal thing. The other thing I want to go back over here, Jacob, real quick, is I want to caution. Can you go back to the default backups they put in? We run into this quite a bit. If you're a FileMaker developer, and I'm not picking on anyone, but I'm kind of picking on kind of a group of people very loosely, and you're a FileMaker developer, and you go to someone and you say, hey, I'm a professional, I'm awesome, I can do everything, right? I don't even say that, right? But say you're that kind of person, you're doing that. We run into these people all the time where they go to a customer, and they do the server install, or they have their IT folks do it, and the IT folks saying, yeah, we're IT folks, we're professionals, we know what we're doing, we can set up a server for anything, right? And what they'll do is they just install it, and they have this just set up running, and this is the only backups they have. And that's why Claris did this, to help people who were almost like suicidal, data suicidal, right? They're not smart enough to know that they don't know, which is really a dangerous place to be. I'm smart enough to know that I don't know stuff, and then you'll see me ask. Like sometimes I get stuck and I ask for help. This is a automatic safety for the people who don't know that they don't know, and they're not smart enough to ask. And this does happen. The problem is, once again, this backs up to the drive, which is where the database is. So you're basically on a single C drive, or whatever you want to call it, and you're really exposed there, right? So as a developer, you're always learning new stuff. No one knows everything. I sure don't. But when it comes to setting up the server, take the time to set it up correctly. If you don't know how to set it up correctly, ask us. We'll send you a checklist. I think we've had checklists before. I don't know where it's at right now. And in fact, I've said this is causing Jacob distress because he's wondering where it's at and is it up to date. But very important, because we run into this a lot. I go to the IT people, like, yeah, IT guys set up, they're awesome, right? And we come in there are no backups here. It's these backups here. They go, and it's attached to like triple X RAID, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, okay, but it's on the one logical volume. And so if one drive fails, you're not, this is great. Some of you go like, RAID, we got super RAID, yeah. And so you put this over here on the RAID, right? This is the C drive. And like, well, if one drive dies, we're totally protected. What happens when Sally goes in there and hits delete all records? And then it deletes them all, right? And then you have backups for a day or a week or whatever it is, and you don't catch it, right? How is the RAID going to help you then? It's not going to help you. You're really exposed. So just think. Because what they call them, Karens now, right? Karen is data to find you and to destroy your data. So anyway, I guess that's a meme thing, a Karen.
Yeah,
so,
and we have some customers that do that too. We're not scheduled yet. I won't name the customer, of course, on air, but I'm working with one right now who, they only have daily backups. And it's a huge issue because if their FileMaker server crashes, and it does occasionally due to the nature of what they do, they lose the whole day's worth of data. And so because that for them is untenable, they are continuing to try and use these scrubbed files. They'll pop it open and run a full recover on it, and it'll fix some stuff or whatever, and then they'll be like, cool, it's good to go, and they put it live again, and it's like that file has corruption in it. That recover process cannot rebuild the file from scratch. It doesn't work that way. Sorry.
Yeah. So I liken this stuff of driving drunk down the freeway blindfolded in a car. Okay, so you can do it for a period of time until you do actually crash badly. So, so if you're drinking while driving, okay, one thing, and if you're drinking while driving with no seatbelt, So, I mean, I can only help you so much, and then you have to help yourself, right, Jacob?
Yep.
I mean, we've tried to figure out a service where you can put in put in a block of money at RCC, and then we put Jacob with a parachute in a C-130 and fly him over your office and have him jump out, and he parachutes down and goes in there and fixes your stuff. People don't want to pay. It would be very cool, but it would be $100,000 per deployment, and they don't want to pay for that. So the C-130s are not cheap on a per hour basis. So next thing, what are we going to do next, Jacob Taylor?
I want to run through a couple changes that we make in basically the general settings here. There's one actual command line note that I want to do right at the end before we get into SSL, but I'll save that for the end. Basically, that's a tuning thing. I want you guys to know that. Yeah, we'll get to it. It's very important, but also not any of this. So one of the main changes that we always make, and I have to explain why, is this setting right here, open the databases that are open in the database folder. We always turn that off. And you can turn the other stuff off too, but at least this setting should always be disabled on your server. The reason for that is because if, for example, your server crashes, and that could be FileMaker Server itself, or it could be the hardware, the virtual machine, the whatever, the thing, any of those parts, if any of it blows up, what will happen if you don't turn that off is FileMaker Server will go, oh, cool. Like if the machine comes back up again, like the hardware didn't just fail and it craps out, the machine will come back up again. FileMaker Server will attempt to start. Great, we love it. And then it'll try and open those broken databases that we talked about. And so if you didn't tell it to shut down, if you didn't go in and close the files manually yourself, you should assume that they were, until proven otherwise, you should assume that they were crashed. And so what this setting is doing when it's on by default is basically going, yeah, it's cool, reboot the server, lose power, whatever, come back up again. Yeah, we're good. It'll run a consistency check on them. That's a-okay. If it passes the consistency check, we're good to go. No, you're running on crashed databases at that point, and if you are incredibly lucky, you might not have corruption in your file, maybe. It's highly likely, though, that if you didn't cause the server to go down and can't guarantee it went down well, which is to say that it closed the files in advance correctly, then you don't have working databases. And the problem is not so much that you've done that, because the server might reboot itself or something like that. The problem is that when it comes back up again, you don't know. And so you're operating on top of damaged databases and you're not aware of that fact. Business owners make, I'll just say, terrible choices sometimes and decide to operate on top of broken databases. That is their prerogative. We advise against it in any and all scenarios. However, it is much worse that happens and you're not aware of it. And so if it tries to open the databases and it doesn't find basically very narrow types of corruption in the file, it'll certify it and open the databases for you. You may have scrapped layouts, your data may be corrupted, you may have fields that just don't work, but if it's not kind of very narrow types of corruption inside the file structure itself, FileMaker Server will basically pass it and open the file. And so you have to be very, very, very careful in that scenario. I know a lot of our customers, they're not the most amazingly IT savvy and whatever, and they would like the server to run itself, basically, right? They want it to, well, if it blows up or if the thing reboots or Windows updates automatically install, whatever, they want it to come back up again, because they don't want to deal with it. And that's just an incredibly dangerous way to operate your business, to be honest. It's pretty easy to come in and say, all right, we're going to do Windows updates, run the little thing, install them, whatever. And then before it reboots, go and close your files so that when it goes down, it comes back up again, comes back up on the other side, and you're like, hey, cool. And then you just go hit open the files and you're good to go. And you can guarantee, great, you're up to date on Windows updates and your databases are absolutely safe. So you just want to be aware of that. But that's one of the main things that we changed. It's like a random general setting that's super important. I can kind of tour you guys through some of this stuff if you're interested. Mostly we don't mess with this. We only have a couple clients that use the filter databases thing. That's kind of neat, I guess. Just hides databases if you don't have permissions to see them, basically. This feature we actually use really heavily. So on our cloud servers particularly, or on site servers actually, when you want to have, like I mentioned, that bifurcation where you've got like a kind of slow operating system or backups drive, and then you have like a wicked fast SSD for your databases, this is how you'd set that up. So you go over here, you turn it on, and they have a funny format. If you're on Mac, it'll say FileMac and then like the path name on OS X or whatever. So you can set up like an alternative, like here, I'll give an example of configuring one. This is a backups drive, so don't actually do this, but if we did databases, and then I could go in here and I could do FileWin, databases. And so then I can say save, and then it'll add that, whoops, there it is. And it'll add that as another databases directory. So as it is right now, FileMaker's on the C drive. It'll work with that regular old databases directory that's on the C drives, but it'll also work with this D drive folder. And it gives a little icon. It gives a little folder icon on the database thing, so you can tell the difference between where your database is on the server drive. On this tab, you see there's no folder icon here. There will be a folder icon, basically. And then one of the things that this enables is, especially for customers that have a massive amount of external container data. For example, there's some of our customers that keep technical specifications that are, not FileMaker files or whatever, but they keep them in containers for archival purposes. They'll have 100 gigabytes of this, a terabyte. I've seen a terabyte and a half. You can set it up so that that container data is not automatically backed up by FileMaker Server. It is very important, of course, in that scenario, you have a backup plan. Because you are totally responsible for it. FileMaker will not help you. If you tell it not to back up the stuff, hey, it's not gonna. So be careful with that option. It's very powerful. It can be very useful if you have a large amount of, but you need to think very carefully about that backup system design if you're gonna do that, just so we're clear.
Okay. Yeah, finish this off, and before we get to SSL, I want to address something here.
Sure. And we have script schedules. We have nothing plugged in here. Yep, it's where you program them. Notifications, email notifications on your server if you do not have them configured. You need an SMTP server. Like if you try and turn them on, you need details here. You can, I think, at this point still use Google, but they're trying to phase out stuff like that. They would like everyone to use their little web browser login thing for Google and do the little token passing thing. So they're cutting that off over time. And then this is what we're going to do last, which is the SSL certificate, and then logging. All of these, so these are all the things that are available. All of these are available on the hard drive too. This is just a convenience so that you know that they're here, and if you click download one of them, it'll give you the file. I don't think the SSL will take too long, but I didn't want to go through this because this is the Java conversation that we mentioned yesterday, and someone, I think on the YouTube side,
yeah, it was Andre, I think. Yeah, I think it was Andre.
Okay, because we did not, in fact, they were correct. We did not download OpenJDK. We downloaded Careto, and I think they were objecting to that because it's not on FileMaker's list. Because their list is Oracle or Adopt OpenJDK, basically. So one of the reasons that we recommend Careto, actually, for those of you who are not familiar, the tiniest version of this backstory is that a couple of years ago, Oracle decided they wanted to change how Java licensing worked, and that you needed to buy a license to use Java. And there was a little bit of wiggle room on that for some desktop applications and stuff that was already running, but functionally they want you to pay them money from this point forward. And so what that really meant is that everyone who had previously been working on Sun's Java, which is now owned by Oracle, stopped and took their toys and went home at that point, and they went over to OpenJDK. And so OpenJDK immediately got all the corporate sponsorships that used to be on Sun, then Oracle's maintained version. And so it was like, oh, cool, we got this great other version. And I have no complaints about Adopt OpenJDK. It's one of the great versions. However, the reason that we picked Careto is because Amazon, who has more money than anyone has ever met in the history of the earth, is the one that maintains it, and they run a bunch of internal stuff on Java. And so they are a very big company with a lot of money who has a vested interest in maintaining it and maintaining it well, and they have the engineering money and hours to do so. And so because there aren't licensing concerns between either Adopt OpenJDK or Careto, we picked Careto. Both are good options, basically. That's the short version. Anyway, so back to this thing, for enabling web publishing engine, which is a prerequisite for WebDirect, you turn it on and then you have to pick. And so if you do OpenJDK, you have to go find the Adopt OpenJDK version, and then if you hit OK, it'll give you the link for it, and you can go there. Can we open that? Oh, they updated the link. Fantastic. So the problem is you actually need the 8. Don't forget you want the 8 version, and you want hotspot specifically. So there's multiple runtimes, whatever. So you'll pick that. You'll get I think it's the tar file. Yeah, for Windows. You pick the JDK, you download it, you put it in here, you hit OK. And you basically are giving the zip file to FileMaker Server. So, FileMaker Server then spits it out into its own directory, and you don't have to think about it. We do Careto. Of course, it's going to give me a popover that I can't get rid of. All right, cool. So we do Careto. If you're doing something like Careto, you're actually just going to pick Oracle and then hit OK. and I'll bring the thing over here because you'll see it launch. They're not actually different really. So I hit OK. So it's going to turn the web presentation engine on. So you see it launching now. And let's see. Oh, we never installed Careto. Excellent. Well, all right. So if we install Careto, then it will work correctly. Good job. So if you hit next, basically taking all the defaults, you end up with the latest version of Java 8. In this case, they have not updated any of this for Java 11, which would be the next version that you might use. And then you'll come in here, you'll hit this, you'll select Oracle, and it'll launch. Where's that? There's the giant spike of CPU usage. So this is Careto running right here. That is the web presentation engine that's launching. It'll use some CPU. Once it calms down, basically, the web presentation engine will go from unknown, as you can see the little yellow dot in the background, to green, and it'll say OK or live or running. There it is, run. And at that point, you can turn on WebDirect. And then once I've done that, I think I can just hit that, and it will, yeah. And so
there you go.
WebDirect.
Yay, nice, very nice.
The other details to look at here. So this is what enables the legacy web. It's the web publishing engine. It's a prerequisite for WebDirect, but the web publishing engine is also, if you were going to use PHP or something like that to talk to FileMaker, you can do that here. The new version of that is called the Data API. That's here. You do have to turn that on, but there's no settings. You turn it on. That's it. If you're going to do plugins inside of the FileMaker Server database engine, you'll need to enable them. If you're going to have your file install, something, perform script on server install plugin, you'll need to turn that on here. Otherwise, you have to go find it on disk and put the plugin in. That's kind of standard. And then if you need ODBC, it's the same thing. You just turn it on. You'll need to obviously configure your ODBC. I'm leaving all of this as kind of an exercise for you all. If you need help with it, let me know. We do a few. I do maybe one ODBC per financial quarter, or something like that. It's not super common. And then these pages don't matter too much. For most of our customers, for a few, they matter very greatly. License information is here. FileMaker newer versions actually sync their license overnight, so this is mostly like a forcing option. You can force the sync to happen if you need to. That is helpful if you have run out of seats, for example, or you're out of gigabytes on your data API or something like that. You go buy more from Claris, and then as soon as the check clears or whatever, you're over here spamming the sync license button to see if you can pull it into your server so you can get your stuff running back again, so you don't have to wait until the night. Whatever, it's there. So you can change the administrator username and password, and then I'm going to ignore most of this page, but basically this is where you'd set up things like an Amazon, a Google, or a Microsoft third-party login, and this is like Amazon.com as an OAuth provider, Google same thing, and Microsoft can do like Live as an open authentication provider. If you do if you're in a Windows domain, like you have a domain controller, this is how you enable that here, basically. You turn it on, and then you can plug in, like, you have to join the server to the domain, and we're not going to go over that today, but if you're wondering where that is, it's here. It works pretty well. So the final thing that we are here today, since it's 2, and I think we can get this done in 30 minutes, is we're going to do the SSL. I had one other note. Okay, so one thing that I haven't described here at all that's very important, that we also have not done, is you want to set it's called the RAM cache, the in-memory cache of your FileMaker server. That used to be on the old admin console. It was a box. You could like type the number of megabytes in the box and hit save, which was great. They took it out, and I can't tell you why. It's probably the second most important feature behind backups for a FileMaker server.
Yeah, I can tell you why, but we don't want to sit and discuss dirty laundry at Claris. So yeah, we just let's just say that their decisions in terms of what they've included and not included in the this web interface have not been popular and well received by the development community. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to give up most of what they did. There's some other people, right, that will disagree with me in the community. I'm happy to give up most of what they did from the old one, but that specifically being able to set that setting on the admin console was fantastic, and that's one of the things that I really think that they should bring back. I haven't seen it happen yet. We're hoping, obviously. So, and that one, you'd want to, I think our admin console. So you'll literally, you have to go onto the command line. This works in CMD as well, if you guys are familiar. And the command for this is exactly the same on Mac as well. But you'll do set server config because it's the server configuration, and then the cache size, and it'll be, I think, server cache. I think it's cache size. I'm gonna be wrong. Type this command in enough times. Just a minute, I'm confirming that I'm not.
Is it bytes or megabytes? That's what we're asking. What it's in? Or...
It's in megabytes, yeah.
Okay.
And so so the rule of thumb for that is, for example, this server that we're kind of demoing with has 16 gigs of RAM. And so my rule of thumb for this is you take a gig off of the number of the amount of RAM that it has, which, for example, this one has 16, so you'd say 15 gigs. You divide what's remaining by 2. Yeah, cache size. All right, wonderful. So
that is either the official recommendation I've seen written up, or it's really close to it. It's a little bit, what it ends up being, a little bit less than half, I think is what it is. So
yeah, they're old. They used to have a thing where, at least on the old admin console, it would tell you if you set it greater than half, it won't let you. And so it's an easy back of the envelope, whatever, -1 divided by 2. So, but like I said, it's in megabytes. So for 16 gigs, 15 gigs, that'd be 15,000 megabytes. You divide that by 2 and you get 7,500. And then that's it. This does not require restarting the admin console or the server or any of that stuff. I think our password was password. Yes, it was. And so that's it. It's live. You can go back over here and you can see, let's find FileMaker Server. And so now it won't go quite to 7,000 immediately, but that's where it'll cap out. And so it's already jumped up to 6 gigs of RAM used, and it's ready to go. The only database, of course, this server has in it is the demo one, so it's not going to help that much. But if you have a larger FileMaker solution, you can get some fantastic performance benefits from that, since I think it defaults to, yes, 0.5 gig of RAM. So if your database is bigger than that, you want to increase it if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about that. Good one. Good one. All right.
So, all right, so we'll do this the standard FileMaker way just to make it easy on everybody. RCC actually usually does this with OpenSSL, which is a slightly different process, but the details aren't relevant. You get to the same endpoint, and this is like kind of the officially supported way. So all of this is done on the command line. As you can see on the web interface here, like the only option we have is to import a custom certificate, and so that's basically you can hit import, and that's the option that you get. So what we're going to do is, I have to find the DNS address that I set up for this server. Yes, AWS Backups demo. So we'll use password for all of this stuff because we're being super secure. Don't actually do that. So we're going to do fms admin. And we want to what? So we've got description. We can do a few things with the certificate command. We can create, we can import, and we can delete. So I think we're going to create. Be certificate create, right? Yeah, certificate create. And then we want to specify the key file. Use this option to import one. Got it. So we're not going to do that. We want to generate a new certificate. So what is there it is. That's the example. So we want probably one of these 2 examples right here. So wonderful. We're going to do, so probably this top example is the best for most of the people watching, because what you're going to have is you'll have like a subdomain on your company's website or something like that, and it'll be like filemaker.yourcompany.com, and that's like actually all that you need to know from this process. If you need to specify location information and all that stuff, an example like this might be more useful, but we're just going to use the sort of plain one here. So our domain is AWS Backups demo. Right? Yes, wonderful. And then we have to specify the key file password, and we're gonna, have a super secret password of password, and we have to do that. That's the admin console. And so that's been generated. So it hasn't told us anything at all, which is super helpful. But what it has done is over here, if I go find it, I can show you the files. It has created the two things that we need for this. One is the key, and the other is the SSL. It's called the certificate signing request, the certificate request. Basically, the way that this dance works with a certificate authority is request using that key that I need a certificate for. In this case, it's AWS Backups demo.atrcc.com. And you go, okay, cool, and you take that little request and you hand it to, say, GoDaddy, for example, and they go, oh yeah, great, wonderful. They have to verify that you'll have control over that domain. So if that, one of the reasons that we recommend GoDaddy specifically actually is because if that, for example, like atrcc.com is on our, we own it, right? If it was rcconsulting.com, we'll pretend I'm doing FileMaker.rcconsulting.com, then I could go in there and request that certificate, and they'd go, oh yeah, like they can look at the account and go, hey, you own that domain, fantastic, and they just give it to you. You don't have to do any kind of a dance or validate emails or punch codes in or do any of this other stuff to validate ownership of the domain. They know that you own it, so they can just grant it to you. It still takes a couple minutes. But that's what they do. So if we go in here into the C store, FileMaker Server C store, if I go look, and is today the 25th? I think today's the 25th. So 2:08 p.m. is when I generated those. So of these things, so here's the key, and that's the thing that's protected with the almighty password of password. And then this is the request. So if we're going to, for example, and say, hey, we want a certificate for this domain, this is the file that we're going to be taking. We are actually going to do that, and I'm going to edit this because I want to copy it. I'm going to bring my other monitor over here for this, but I need to put it into actual GoDaddy because I have it open in another browser that I will bring over for you guys. There. So I'm on our SSL, so we're going to do set up. And most of your SSL flows will look something like this, basically. So we have some of our existing ones here. We're going to say new certificate. And then bam, it asks for that, the CSR. So I'm going to paste that. Oops, that's on my computer, so I'm going to paste it. And it says, hey, AWS Backups demo, atrcc.com. We're going to go, okay. There's a couple things here, so you can pick this kind of stuff. You don't care much about this. You're basically going to take the defaults in almost every. I think Starfield is useful for if you're doing like embedded or old systems, basically. It doesn't. None of our customers ask for it. So then we're going to request the certificate, and I'm going to hope that the request comes back in time for the stream, basically, because at this point we're just waiting. So like I said, if we had atrcc.com in this GoDaddy account, they would look at this, and in a couple of minutes they'd go, oh, great, wonderful. You own it. Thump. They'll just ship it out. And then you'll download and install. We may have to do there's like a manual authorization process where you put a text file on your domain, or you add a little code to your domain's DNS settings, and those are we'll see which one we have to do today. But so it means I will not get to show you guys putting the little auth file in. They give you directions on how to do that, but basically that's like what people pay me for on this is running the commands and then bringing this file over and to actually get the domain validated. So like I said, if you don't have the same GoDaddy account for the SSL and the domain, they won't automatically validate it, and you have to do that manually. It's kind of annoying. Basically. So in this case, we're going to do something that doesn't quite.
I'm going to interrupt. as you do this, can you just look at Twitch and M Johnson 24? He's one of our big time people that supports us here. We do appreciate it. He's got an issue. I just want to make sure you kind of address this as you go. Can you see that on Twitch, Jacob?
Yes. Okay, so I can directly address M. Johnson's question. So this is the non-standard thing I was going to mention. You should mute yourself, Richard. I think you're echoing me.
I just muted. I'll turn.
Oh, perfect. So, so for M. Johnson's question, if you guys aren't in Twitch, what he's asking about is sometimes when you get the certificates from GoDaddy, they'll be in the wrong format. FileMaker won't take them, basically, right? It'll tell you, and then so you have to, he's saying you have to run command line things to like convert the format. What that means is you have downloaded the incorrect format, and I'll tell you why. So, it's one of those, contrary to the obvious thing that totally makes sense, and you're not at fault for thinking this because it's logical. If you go here and you've issued your certificate just like we have, you're going to go hit download, and you go to down here and you're like, yeah, I'm installing on a Windows server. Like, I'm going to pick IIS because that's the web server on Windows. Don't do that, actually, because FileMaker is not IIS. And since you're not installing them directly into IIS, you're installing them through FileMaker into IIS, it will do the conversion. FileMaker does the conversion for you. You've got them in the wrong format, and then you need to convert them. So we tell clients to pick the other one here. What that actually means is like the most blisteringly generic format for a certificate file, and literally everything will take it. You can import them into FileMaker, into IIS, into whatever, even web servers that run on different operating systems that aren't Windows, Mac, Linux, FreeBSD, whatever. It gives you PEM files, which are really boring, basically, and then everything accepts them. So that's basically the mistake most people make. It's totally logical. There's no like blame there at all. It doesn't make any sense. It's not straightforward, but that's it's a problem. So. All right, so we have our certificate here. I have not actually downloaded this on the system, so I'm going to bring that over really fast. Dun, 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 dun. And then from this point forward, it's you guys will see it's straightforward. You just put them in. All right, we're ready. So what I have done is I use the Windows file sharing, and I just to hide all the stuff that I have on my computer because it's too much to bring up. You can see I have my folder shared with the computer. So this is the zip file that GoDaddy gave us. So we're just going to extract it. We're going to put it right there. I don't even care, it's me on the desktop. So yeah, like I said, what people run into is they'll have this stuff be in the wrong format. We're going to end up using that one and this one. I'll just show you guys how to plug this in. So we're going to do configuration. We're going to go to the SSL certificate, and then we're going to import. So the three files that I wonder if this is going to work on the tiny screen. Oh, FileMaker, don't do this to me. We can't see it. All right.
Can't you scroll right? The right window bar was there. The menu.
I have to scroll down, and it pins the. They've forcibly set the maximum or the minimum distance of the modal from the top of the browser window, which does not go well. All right. Well, this will be ugly for a second. Apologies, everyone. It's going to be the wrong size, but we'll be able to see the drop down. All right, so see, I get the scroll bar now.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to go and do the the signed certificate file. We're going to come over here on the desktop, pull this in. So we're going to pull the PEM file. I think it's a cert file, actually. Is that cert? Oh, it doesn't show the file endpoints. Let's find out. Which one is which? Oh, it doesn't even say. I bet it's a cert. Right, so that one's a cert file. We do the intermediate. You always want the intermediate on FileMaker Server. If your certificate authority doesn't give those to you, you may have to go find them. That sucks. I'm sorry. But basically, if you don't give it the intermediate certificate, there's you have a chain of certificates. You have the root, you have the intermediate, and then the one that's actually for your own domain. If you don't have all three of those, realistically, if you don't have the intermediate certificate, what FileMaker Server will do is it will only give out the one for your website. And FileMaker, like Pro, Go, etc., will do silly things like not be able to validate that correctly. It'll look at it and know that the name is correct and that the common, your domain name and everything, they all line up, but it'll still give you a little yellow lock because basically the intermediate certificate's not there, and it's really silly. So that's just, it's something to know. The short version is always put the intermediate certificate in there if you have it. Nope, can't scroll. All right. So then we have to go in here. We go to FileMaker, FileMaker Server, go to the C store, get the server key, even though, right, we're reinstalling it on top of the same thing. We have to type in our wonderful password of password. We're going to hit import, and hopefully it works. Awesome. So, and as this says, to make this live, you do have to restart FileMaker Server. So I'm going to give you just one solid fair warning here. So I'm going to make the screen back to the presentation size so I can stop driving myself up the wall. Save. All right. All right, wonderful. Now it's back to the normal. So, so we have to restart the service. I'll just tell you guys, there's basically one scenario when this is safe, which is when you have no databases on the server. So back to restarting FileMaker Server. This is just a big kind of systems administration note for FileMaker Server. The very short version is it doesn't integrate well with any of the platforms it runs on, which is kind of humorous, basically. And so if you use the actual services menu, which I'll bring up, that's what it's told you to do on Windows. You'll use the launch CTL command on Mac to restart it. But it's the same problem in both places. So if you do this and there are lots of clients connected to the server, right, because you've done this install, and you should just boot everybody off. Actually, you can go disconnect clients from the server manually. But if you don't do that and you restart, there is actually a chance that you can corrupt your database. And the reason for that is because when Windows tells FileMaker to restart or shut itself, basically, FileMaker can wait a long time for clients to disconnect. It will force them off eventually, but depending on how Windows is set up, how long Windows is willing to wait for that process to happen, and how long it takes FileMaker to do that, FileMaker can take longer, basically, and so Windows will get pissed and kill the process because it's taking too long. Like it thinks it's frozen or something, and it's actually just waiting for clients to disconnect. That can be a problem. It doesn't usually, but it can end up in a damaged database. And so we generally recommend with all of this stuff that you actually go in, as always, you're closing your databases. There you go. It's a little stop thing. We can go over here. And then if you have your databases closed, it doesn't matter what happens. If you hit restart, you're good to go. So when this comes back up, you'll probably see the admin console in the background drop out during this, because it'll try and update, and it'll be like, I can't find that server. Yep, there it goes. See? Oh, the database engine shut down, and then in a couple seconds it'll show you, it'll show you can't find that server, and then when it comes back up again, our SSL is done, all of our settings are applied. Yep, there it goes. Okay, wonderful. So when this comes back up again, this is just the admin console that's going down and coming back up again. There's a bunch of different little processes that make up the kind of menagerie that is the FileMaker server system. And the admin console is a separate one. You can, the web direct is one, admin console is one, data API is its own thing. Then there's, of course, the actual FileMaker server that you're thinking of, which is like the database engine. Each of those things can be poked and prodded separately when you're not on the FileMaker Cloud product. So when we refresh that, great, comes up, we sign in. As you can see, as we configured it, it did not open the database again after the reboot, and we have an SSL certificate installed. Dun, dun, dun. So that's all it takes. There's a couple foot guns with that associated with installing SSL certificates. So kind of as I mentioned previously, FileMaker Pro, Advanced, and Go are not super smart about certificate validation, actually checking that the certificate matches the server, matches the actual domain, etc. That kind of the little validation process. Web browsers, for example, are very smart and good about that. They have other problems, of course, but they're pretty smart about finding something giving you the little green check lock, the little green lock. FileMaker Pro Advanced and FileMaker Go are not very good at that and do not try very hard, basically. And so one of the funny things that you can end up with, and one of the things that catches a few of our customers off guard, is if you have an on-site server, like in your office or something like that, and you set up the SSL certificate, because, right, you have some off-site people, you want them to access it securely. They're on, I don't know, Starbucks Wi-Fi. I guess everybody's not working out of Starbucks anymore, but at some point that might resume. And definitely previously, lots of people did things like that. And so they're like, you're thinking about your data security. You have an SSL installed. You want to make sure that data is encrypted while it's going between your FileMaker Pro or Go and the server. And that's great. But for the people in the office, maybe they try and put that domain that we just set up, in this case, it's AWS Backups or whatever, into their FileMaker, and it gives them an error. And it says, hey, this doesn't match. And that's because you have to set up your network a specific way to make that work correctly, because like lots of customers who have people in the office, they'll put like the local IP address of the server into FileMaker, 192.168.164 or whatever. And so that works great. Obviously, you'll be able to find the server just fine. But because of the way that FileMaker checks the certificates to see, figuring out the details and seeing if it's going to validate or not, the IP address, it just does basically a dumb text comparison. And so it looks at, does the IP address match that DNS name? And obviously a number is not going to match the name. And so it fails it, basically. Even though you're benefiting from all of the encryption, everything's configured correctly, basically under your understanding of it. And FileMaker's like, but there's something wrong here. And so all of our customers end up like overriding it, basically. You can fix it. There's some network tricks that you can use to basically make that work correctly. But yeah.
I think Andre was commenting on that about the network tricks and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so.
split DNS. NAT reflect. Yeah, so Andre commented two potential options. One of them is called split horizon DNS, which works right if you're in that office and you control all the computers in the office, so you can tell them where their DNS server is. Then you set that to your own internal computer somewhere, and then you tell them, oh yeah, AWS Backups at rcc.com is actually this local IP address, instead of them looking out on the internet and going, hey, and then you get the outside IP for the server, and so then the people outside get the correct answer, the people inside get a correct answer, and then everybody's happy. The other thing that you can do that he mentioned is also called NAT reflection, and that one's actually really cool. But basically what it is for those people in the office, they look up the server and they see that external IP address, and right, that's not going to work because it's doesn't make sense. Packets that have to go out on the internet and come back in. Well, it sounds like reflection, right? It's like you've got it in a mirror. So your computer goes to communicate with that server on that external IP address, and your network goes, oh, hey, that's FileMaker traffic. We know where that goes, and it turns it right back around and shoots it at the server. And the server responds, and it doesn't know or care. It's ambivalent to this. But then you have those people in the office, and they can communicate directly with it, and it validates. And then you have people outside of the office, and they can communicate directly with it, and it validates. And so again, it's another potential option for everybody's happy.
Well, good. Well, we have upcoming events coming up. Once again, reminder for those of you who are lurkers out here, that if you want to support the channel, definitely make sure that you purchase the training bundle. And what is the training bundle? It's where you go to the fmtraining.tv website, and you can come over here to the bundle button. So you hit the website, there's a live training, which is a schedule right here. And then there's individual courses, etc. Largely, we don't sell the courses separately anymore, just because of the logistics of it. It's really difficult to have 25 or 30 courses. We have a fairly small team of people that put this stuff together. It's like 4 people, 5 people. So buy the bundle. That way we consolidate everything together. If you need a copy of FileMaker Pro 19, you don't have one, definitely check this one out right here. If you'd like a coupon, email us at support@RC Consulting. We can give you a coupon so you can save a couple bucks on that. Cool. And so I'm not seeing a lot of questions here. Looks like these guys are still going back and forth on stuff, which is fine. Any other thoughts or comments on your end, Jacob?
No, that's. I mean, we could have a small conversation about when people want to install SSL certificates, but I don't know how much value that has. It's sort of a nuanced thing.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, FileMaker complains about it, and at the point you have mission critical data, you ought to definitely make sure you have that installed, right? So, because
basically, yeah,
yeah. So,
well, and I think we covered it partially yesterday. I didn't recover it again today. Basically, business owners, like, they try and decide, pluses and minuses on the expense of it. And so basically what it boils down to is, for a lot of business owners, the decision is, if you're transferring important data, you probably want to have one, basically. If you don't care about your business data, or it's a test database or something like that, maybe it doesn't matter so much. But if it's, if that's how you guys make your money, I would suggest one. So
cool, very cool. All right, well, that's going to be it for now. I greatly appreciate everyone. We're going to call it a wrap today. We'll see you tomorrow with Jonathan Ray on some more technical stuff, and then Monday will be emergency procedures. So when your engines are on fire, how do you land the plane without killing everyone, right? So that will be the deal on that, and then we'll go down that road. So I appreciate everyone. We'll catch you next time.
Guys just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap, stands in, throws it left for Amendola, reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10, rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but then he makes the grab.